We spent hours writing up all these CES embargoes, so you damn well better know that's the stuff we're going to be talking about today. Specifically, Chromebooks and Wear OS watches. Yep, this is the Android Police Podcast.
It's Monday, January 6th. Welcome. I'm Corbin Davenport alongside Cody Toombs. And it's CES, as Cody said, which means there's so much news that we actually can't fit it into a single podcast episode. Normally it's the other way around. Normally we're kind of scrunching for things at the last minute to try to get a good show going. But there's so much to talk about. We have to leave some stuff out this time, which is unfortunate. But there's still a whole week ahead, so maybe we'll get to more shows shortly. So not a whole lot in the way of new phones this CES. That's kind of been how CES has trended the past couple of years. Everyone's saving their big stuff for Mobile World Congress, which is in a month. So we don't usually get a whole lot of phone announcements at CES anymore. But what we do get a lot of is Chromebooks and wearables and TVs and all that other fun stuff. So we'll start with Chromebooks. The Asus's line of flagship Chromebooks has probably been the most popular, at least among sort of the enthusiast crowd. The C302 was a really popular Chromebook a couple years ago, and then Asus came out last year with the C434, and it's a 13 or 14 inch, depending on the version, Chromebook. And at CES, Asus just revealed the next version of it, which is the C436. I definitely didn't mistype that several times while writing this post. So if and we'll have the links to all these in the show notes, so you can look at the pictures. But if you've seen Asus's last Chromebook, this looks pretty much identical. It still looks vaguely like a MacBook Pro, or if you've seen Asus's Windows laptops, it looks a lot like those. It's a 2-in-1 with an aluminum body, pretty small bezels on the screen, touchscreen, 13 inches, all that fun stuff. So compared to the Asus's previous Chromebook, there are a couple of upgrades. Like, the design language is still very much the same. It's not the same drastic change as we were going from the C302 to the last year's model. The main new thing this time around is that this is one of the first Chromebooks with Intel's 10th generation processors. So depending on what model you get, you're going to get either a Core i3, i5, or i7 10th gen CPU. And those are the 15 watt U series chips. So they're about as good as Intel chips and laptops get. Like, Asus isn't going with the M3 chips or the 5 watt TDP processors. This is the big boy CPUs. So we'll have to see how battery life goes, but this is pretty powerful for a Chrome machine. Asus has also finally gone up to 8 gigs of RAM as a minimum. That was kind of surprising on last year's model. You pay $500 for a Chromebook and still get 4 gigs of RAM. This year they upgraded that to 8 gigs. And some models will have 16 gigs as well. The screen is still a 14-inch display with an 85% screen-to-body ratio, so still pretty small bezels. The newer processors mean you get Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.0, which is nice. They've dropped the USB Type-A port that was on the last model, which was kind of weird because the C302 only had Type-C, and then the next one they added a Type-A port, and now it's gone again. There's no more Type-A port. Not a big deal with Chromebooks, I don't think. You don't use the USB ports very often anyway, except for charging. Couple other things. There is a quad speaker array, which is interesting. We'll have to see how that sounds. Also, the storage is using NVMe SSDs. So those are the sort of high-end solid-state drives that you see in higher-end PCs that can get up to like 3,000 megabyte per second reads. So this should be a pretty fast Chromebook. Again, we'll have to see how the battery life holds up there. But yeah, I mean, it looks like a really nice laptop, but we don't really know pricing yet. And that's it. It seems like this will probably be another big price hike. I don't think this will be in the $500 range anymore, most likely. We do know it'll cost £899 in the United Kingdom, but we don't have US pricing yet. But we should know soon because it's coming in the first or second quarter of this year.
Yeah, so one of the things I found a little curious, how many Chromebooks have had fingerprint sensors before?
Oh,
I
yeah, I should have mentioned that. I believe the only other Chromebook with a fingerprint sensor was the Pixel Slate.
Okay.
So I don't know if any of the other Chromebooks announced at CES have fingerprint readers. I don't remember seeing anything about those in what I wrote, but that is definitely it's among the first ones to have fingerprint reader.
Yeah, so at the bare minimum, that's a good change. It'll be nice to see Chromebooks coming out with a few enhancements like that.
Yeah, and of course, not everyone will want a high-end Chromebook, but it's nice for the people that like Chrome OS and want a good quality machine and not just the $200 and $300 plastic Chromebooks you see everywhere.
Yeah, this is a pretty good looking model. I mean, it resembles obviously the hinge is different, but otherwise it resembles so closely the Surface Book to me. It just from a
Yeah,
look perspective.
yeah. I mean, it's a nice. Again, I still have my C434 that I reviewed last year, and yeah, it's a very nicely built laptop. It's not so great in the 2-in-1 mode when you flip it over because they've gone to like hard edges, so it kind of feels like you're holding like something that's like digging into your hands when you want to use it as a tablet. But other than that, it's a nice laptop. And they also said the key travel was extended a little bit on this model, which is nice because my main complaint with the last one was that the keys felt kind of soft, like there wasn't a whole lot of motion. So that'll be nice.
Everybody's experimenting with keys after Apple uh, experimented and got things wrong.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, I haven't heard of any Chromebooks with keys popping off. So, yeah. So that's Asus's high-end Chromebook, and then today we also got news of a new Samsung flagship. I can't talk today. Samsung's new flagship Chromebook. It's the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook because we're just using Galaxy on everything. It doesn't matter if it runs Android or not. This is a pretty beefy laptop. So it's got a 13-inch 4K OLED screen, which is definitely the best screen I think is on any Chromebook. Because the Pixel Book I think the Pixel Book was probably the closest, and it's still 1080p. I think there was one from like Acer or someone with a 4K screen, but anyway, I don't think a single Chromebook has had an OLED screen before. So
Yeah, this is definitely a new thing, and you got to figure it's not surprising. Samsung's going to be the first to hit with something like this because they really want to make sure that the screen reputation stays with them.
yeah. And just like the Asus Chromebook, it's got Intel's 10th generation processors, so it should be pretty fast. It's got two USB Type-C ports, micro USB port. I'm sorry, micro SD slot. I still can't read today. I'm sorry. It's also got an S Pen, which is fun. Samsung's previous Chromebooks also had styluses, but I don't know if they were branded as S Pen. So I don't know if there's different tech going on here, but I'll be interested to see how that works. I really recommend you click on all the links in the show notes and look at the pictures of this because this is a really gorgeous laptop. The pictures from the hands-on is of like this red model that looks fantastic. Like they've definitely done a good job, it looks like, with industrial design. So it's the base model is $999. So this is not a cheap Chromebook. Maybe students skip on this one. And that base model has 8 gigs of RAM, and 256 gigs of storage, and it should be available in Q1 of this year. And Samsung's also planning a model with 16 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. Uh, I had no idea how much that would cost, but maybe if you really want to do all your development work in Chrome OS, that'll be the one to buy.
Yes, there are a lot of developers working Chrome OS slash
Yes, a lot of them. But yeah, I mean, again, for the people that really want a high-end Chromebook, this looks like a really nice laptop. Um,
Yeah,
I
and
wish
this
it.
one will also have a fingerprint scanner, which yay.
Yes. Hmm.
It feels like Google may have kind of dropped the whatever was limiting that because everyone else seemed to be so much resisting it, and now it's coming in.
Yeah. Well, Google has to make the hardware platforms for every Chromebook. So probably what happened is they made a new platform with the 10th gen CPUs and they added fingerprint sensor as an option, and that's what they're all using now. Um, that would be my guess.
Oh, hey, B Slidem actually brought up an interesting point in chat. The Galaxy branding may have a little bit to do with Samsung's continuity features. So things that tran-
Uh,
transition between different devices.
Maybe OEM still can't modify Chrome OS though. So
Well, not the OS, but they may have other things installed.
yeah, I don't know if you can. I don't know if Google lets you pre-install Android apps with Chromebooks. Maybe
Yeah, I'm not
that,
really sure.
that'd be interesting to see. Um, so all that's pretty good news. But actually, one Chrome OS thing that kind of got a little bit of attention early this week is David posted an editorial that um, made a lot of people have very strong feelings. Um, Again, I recommend you read the whole thing if you're interested in Chrome OS as a platform. But basically, his point was that Chrome OS has sort of stalled, um, in that it's not, the web apps on Chrome OS aren't advancing, I think, as fast as a lot of us wanted it to, or a lot of us expected it to do on Chrome OS, especially with how much Google has been pushing progressive web apps on Android. It's kind of surprising that Google itself still doesn't have a lot of them. Like I think I know, like on like Google Photos and a couple others. Oh, there's my Google Home gone. um, uh, I know Google's turned a couple of their apps into like the bare minimum PWAs, where they have like a home screen icon, but they don't work offline or anything fun like that. And the Android app ecosystem is kind of in the same place where it's better than it was, but it's still a simulated operating system running on top of another OS, and that's always going to have weird quirks and issues. Um, and then on top of that, there's the Linux apps, which is, again, I still find it very bizarre that was ever added to the OS. I like it, I've used it, but it's still, and the whole point was that Chrome OS is kind of in this weird place where Google's kind of content just to, like, it feels like it doesn't have a long-term plan, basically. It's kind of just these separate goals that are sort of going their own way, but Chrome OS is, and at the same time, Chrome OS is no longer like this simple basic OS it once was. It's trying to do a lot of stuff. Now you've got two virtualized operating systems on top of Chrome OS, which leads to some issues. So anyway, his whole post was sort of like Chrome OS is maybe not accelerating anymore at the pace it was a few years ago, and it's kind of difficult to tell where it's going. But the good news, I'll go ahead.
I was going to say, a lot of this is stuff we've talked about in the past. What it comes down to is Chrome OS hasn't really made those big changes that lead it into being substantially more productive. It hasn't really, it's not inviting a lot of new developers in.
Yeah,
And everything that it has done, fundamentally, it feels like a half step. It doesn't get anyone any closer to being more productive or more agile with the OS, and it's not really giving people a platform where bigger things can be done. For example, the point I've harped on numerous times is it can't really do video editing. Um,
yeah.
And, you could point to any of the major editing tasks, audio, even images are kind of awkward. Um, and it so far doesn't seem like developers want to approach any of this stuff either.
Yeah, and I think that might be the main issue with Chrome OS right now is that there's a lot that can be done with the Android app support, and there's a lot that can be done with progressive web apps. Like if you look at like the Twitter mobile web app, it's actually probably the best example of a progressive web app I've ever used because it's incredibly smooth, kind of works offline. Again, it's Twitter, so the point is to get new information, but kind of works offline. They've got the share support built in, and I'm not really seeing any of that from Google or Google reaching out and working with other companies to get them to update to progressive web apps. Um, it's sort of the same situation as Chrome, where they're building this browser that can do a lot of stuff, but adoption from other sites and companies is still very slow. And it's the same thing with Android apps. I mean, Android still does not work well on large screens. And on Chromebooks, you have the added issue of most of them are developed for touchscreens and you're trying to use them with keyboard and mice. So there's an added roadblock there. So, yeah, all that to say, I am glad to see that this is changing at least a little bit at CES because a couple of the things David brought up, he brought up only one device having biometric support, which was the Pixel Slate, and now we have more Chromebooks that have biometric support. Another issue was sort of like the lack of a lot of high-end options. That's changing. So Google is at least still iterating on the hardware, and I am seeing improvements also to the software situation. So Chromebooks still have fixed lifetimes, but Google recently gave most models another year of support, and we didn't put in the show notes, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about it. But there are also new Lenovo Chromebooks, and one of them has, I believe they said 8 years of software support, which I don't think has ever happened with a Chromebook. So I do see some improvement, but I still don't think Google is addressing as much as they should be. But again, if you like Chrome OS, more power to you. If that's how you can do your work, that's awesome. And of course, there's people who want to buy these new high-end Chromebooks because they wouldn't make it if there wasn't a market for it.
Yeah, the reality is we're going to end up seeing obviously more progress coming out of Chrome OS, but at this stage I can't not feel like it's in a holding pattern, and it's either waiting on Fuchsia to further mature, or maybe there's some big work happening in the background, but we just really haven't seen enough out of Chrome OS in the last probably 2 years. Outside of
Yeah.
virtual desktops, which I know Ryan would, of course, sing the
Well,
praises for.
outside of Linux support, I think that's been the big thing the past couple
True.
releases. But again, Linux it's a niche thing. So yeah. And wow, my dog is barking. I hope that doesn't come across too much in the audio. Okay.
It'll be edited out.
Yeah. I'm just making more working hours for Jules. So yeah. I need to get my dog to shut up though. Do you want to take the shilling while I go and tell my dog to be quiet?
I was
okay.
I was about to make that transition, but
okay.
Cheers.
All right. Okay. Yeah, you go do that.
Speaking of working hours, if you've enjoyed the Android Police podcast, we're live 4 times a week on Twitch. That's Tuesday for the Q&A show and Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the live podcast recordings. We can't do this without your support. We enjoy having you here in the chat room, and we'd love it if you'd also subscribe to us or donate in the form of bits. This keeps us going, provides a little bit of love to the Android Police podcast, and it's just a good way of showing support. As a subscriber, you get access to the infamous Ryan emoji. You also get extra entries into the AP giveaways. We have at least one running now. Unfortunately, I can't remember what it was actually for. Corbin may kick in on that in just a moment.
Do we have a giveaway?
Do we not?
I don't
swore
remember.
we did.
Hold on. I will find out.
This will now be the most broken up and edited chill there has ever been.
The finished podcast is going to be like 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
Okay, no, there is not a giveaway going on right now.
Oh, then I am a liar.
There's still a lot happening all the time. So
well, Jules will edit out my lie. So let's see. Anyway, subscriptions start at $5 a month, or if you're a Twitch Prime subscriber, if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, this also gives you a free Twitch subscription that you can use every month. It costs you nothing, and you basically just have to go onto the Android or the Twitch. I'm going to start saying that over again. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, this also gives you one free subscription that you can use with us each month. Just go to our channel and hit subscribe. This costs you nothing, and Amazon pays us. You can learn more at twitch.tv/AndroidPolice. And if you would like to give us thanks, you can also drop by androidpolice.com and find the donate button. Or just send us an email and say that you like us and would like to hear more.
Yes. So, yeah, it's been a day with CES. So
it has been.
I think some tripping over words was to be expected. So yes, we're shifting gears. There's probably going to be more Chromebooks coming out, but we'll save those for another time, because now we've got some
Wear OS.
Yes, we've got some watches to talk about. Super exciting. So the first watch we'll talk about is the Sunto 7, which is a new Wear OS watch from a Finnish brand, and it looks pretty nice. So again, this is an episode where you're going to have to click on the links and look at the pictures, because I'm not good at word pictures, but it looks kind of like Fossil's watches a little bit, but most of the ones have this cool outline around the screen that's a different material than the rest of the watch. So that's neat. Under the hood, it sounds pretty much like most other Wear OS watches. It's got a Snapdragon Wear 3100 and 1 gig of RAM. I'm glad more watches have 1 gig of RAM after the Fossil Gen 5 showed me that you really need that for a good Wear OS experience. So this watch should perform fine, probably. The watch also has a few proprietary features. So they're claiming more than 70 sports modes once you install their app. And it also has built-in GPS tracking, which is fairly common on Wear OS watches now, but it's still nice. It's also got a AMOLED screen that goes up to 1,000 nits of brightness, built-in heart rate sensor, Google Fit support, all that fun stuff. So looks like a nice little watch. I think this is one of the first sort of fitness smartwatches I've seen that looks like it'd be good for both fitness and regular wearing. Like a lot of the fit wear watches are sort of like plasticky, or
very
they look
plasticky.
a little bit.
They typically have the non-interchangeable bands, which drives me crazy because they're always just very stiff, very rigid bands, and I hate that. I'm a little worried that this one looks like it's a replaceable band, but I'm not sure. And with a lot of it's like hit and miss with GPS models too. Only about half of them seem to have interchangeable bands.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I know all of Fossil's recent watches have replaceable standard bands, which I really appreciate. But pre-orders for this watch are open now, and it costs $500, which is a lot. But if you want it, it's there.
So one of the other unique features too is it's going to have fully offline maps. So presumably you're going to be able to go just about anywhere, leave your phone behind, and still have at least some basic navigation, which is an interesting twist.
Yeah, And
As far as I'm aware, they didn't say where the maps were coming from, though. Uh, at least I don't believe that this is Google Maps that they're doing, or if it is, I don't believe they said so.
yeah, it doesn't look like Google Maps, so I would guess either like Open Maps or Here Maps. I think that's still owned by Nokia. I'm not sure. One of those. But
Yeah,
yeah,
which this saying is how it's also going to be coming with 1 gig of RAM. That was probably kind of a necessity to be able to
yeah.
keep maps running at a decent clip.
At this point, I wouldn't recommend buying a Wear OS watch with less than a gig. There's just a night and day difference. So speaking of watches, Fossil Group also had a few new watches to show off. So one of their brands, Diesel, the original Diesel smartwatch came out a few years ago, and it was like this massive watch. They came up with another one last year that was, I think, a little bit smaller and had a different design. And they've made a new one with another design this year. And this is the Diesel Fade Light. And I think this is definitely the most unique Wear OS watch I've ever seen. Like, it's the design's subjective. I don't know if it's for everyone. I don't think I could pull this off, but it's, again, you have to look at the pictures. But it's got like this cool translucent frame that sort of looks like the transparent colored plastic in a lot of 90s electronics. So like if you can think of like the transparent like N64, this kind of looks like that.
So when I saw this, my immediate thought is if you love the look and art style of the Ready Player One movie,
Yeah,
this is for you.
it is
This is
very much that.
100% fitting.
Yeah. It comes in a couple colors. So there's like a bright red and a gray and a blue. And then there's one that's just like white translucent plastic. And there's a pretty wild band that comes with all of them. That's like a bunch of different colors and patterns. So anyway, this is an extremely loud watch, but I'm a fan of it. I don't know if I'd wear it, but I like it. I like how this looks. And thankfully, again, they didn't tell us a lot of technical details about this watch, but it sounds like it's just the Fossil Gen 5 in a different frame, because it does have a Snapdragon 3100. They said more storage space, so I'm assuming that's 8 gigs, just like the Gen 5. Google Pay support, GPS, all that fun stuff. So this watch will be released in March 29. Oh, I put March 2019. Oh crap. That's March 2020. I'm sorry. I need to go fix that. And it will cost $275, which was the same MSRP as the Gen 5. So maybe that'll come down in price too, possibly. But yeah,
I have to say, for Diesel to come out with anything that's I guess average price or normal price, that's rare. Diesel is a true fashion brand, and everything I've ever seen from them is usually a good like 5 to 10 times what you would expect it to be from anybody else.
Yeah, but this is a cool watch. I like this. More of this, please. So also, we don't have this in the show notes, but while we're talking about Fossil, I wanted to bring it up. Oh wait, is the embargo for this not up yet? Was that tomorrow? Hold on, let me. Yes. Okay. Never mind. I didn't say anything. Go read the site tomorrow. It wasn't super interesting anyway. So moving on from Wear OS, Withings. Withings, is that how you pronounce their name?
I always thought it was Withings.
Withings. Okay, we'll go with, yeah, that sounds right. Withings. So this company has made sort of hybrid watches for a long time, where it's a regular design but with like an e-ink screen, I think, or maybe it's LCD something on top of the physical face. And they came out with a new model called the AFib. No, wait, I'm sorry. That's the feature.
It's called the Scan Watch.
The Scan Watch. Very good name. They really wrap their brains around trying to come up with that name.
Well, in this market, you have to You gotta work around all the other names people have
Yeah.
already thrown around.
In fairness, Diesel's watch was the Fade Light, so I'm not not picking favorites here.
Exactly.
But yeah, the main selling point for this watch is that it has a lot of sensors in it. So it has a heart rate sensor, an SpO2 sensor, 3 electrodes, and an altimeter. So it can give you lots of fun health data. And it also has it just tells you about your heart rate. Also,
So
go ahead.
fundamentally, though, the big thing here is this is going to be the first watch to come out that actually, in some fashion, kind of competes with Apple for having an ECG built in.
Yes.
So it can track atrial fibrillation, fibrillation. Always say that wrong. Anyway, also known more colloquially as AFib. So yeah, it can track. It can better track your health signals than pretty much any other watch out there that's on the consumer market. Which up till now, Apple has pretty much held all of the glamour for that one.
I like that someone said in the Twitch chat, I want my watch to tell me exactly the moment I get diabetes from my terrible diet. Yeah, your watch will shame you for eating that cheeseburger live. So, yeah. And again, because the Apple Watch obviously does not work with Android, it's definitely worth checking out any watches compatible with Android that can offer the same features. And they're, because again, this is still like a hybrid watch where the whole screen is not a digital. They're saying it should still get around 30 days of battery life, which is pretty good. And if you're interested in getting the small one, it should be available for $249. And there is I'm sorry, the bigger one. Wait.
No, you have it right. The small one is $249,
Yeah.
and the larger one is going to be $299.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really can't read
that
it.
is specifically for a 38 millimeter and a 42 millimeter version.
Yeah.
And they're going to be available in Q2 of 2020. So, spring, maybe going into summer.
Yeah. And it still looks like a really nice watch. And also now there's a little bit of more competition in the space now because Fossil released their hybrid smartwatches last month or the month before. But they don't have ECG or anything fancy like that, just a heart rate sensor.
Yeah, this is certainly a great thing in that sense. The only, let's see, I honestly cannot remember, but I believe Withings does have some decent integration with Google Fits. So that's probably going to be the one and only real way that you can do much tracking with it outside of using Withings' own apps.
Yeah.
So this will on the plus side, it is at least going to be decently portable in terms of data. You're going to have access to it, but this also isn't going to have some of the features of Android Wear in case anyone was really that concerned about that.
Yeah. Nope. It's not a Wear OS watch. So yeah, lots of fun stuff at CES so far. There's more fun stuff on the way. And Cody, you wanna take us out, or do we have any questions in the chat?
Oh, sorry. I had looked back because I thought I saw a comment that had been left in here, but it looks like we're well past that.
Okay.
Anyway, so all the talk. I'm going to start that again. All of the topics we've talked about today can be found at androidpolice.com/podcast. We're live 4 times a week at twitch.tv/androidpolice. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. You can email us at podcast@androidpolice.com. On Twitter, Corbin is Corbin Davenport. I'm Cody_Toombs. That's TOOMBS. Our producer, Jules Wang, is at Point Jules, and our theme music is by Home. We hope to bring you an episode right from CES later this week featuring Joshua Vergara with Pocket Now and Raymond Wong of Input. Check up with our Twitter later on for more details. In the meantime, both of us are back tomorrow with the Q&A show at 1:30 Pacific. We'll see you then.